Yo, what's happening, fanbase? So I wanted to make a video thanking you all for helping me hit 200,000 subscribers. I figured every milestone, maybe I can make a personal video focused on my personal tastes. I don't usually get to do that, and while I'm always happy to share, I don't want to give off the impression that my opinion is the only opinion. In fact, quite the contrary, I'm a big believer in the ideal that everyone's different. I mean, I end all my videos saying, "Stay weird, fam," because it's my legitimate belief that embracing the weirdness is actually a good thing. So, speaking of weirdness, I figured today I would be talking about my top 10 controversial opinions in anime, because I vehemently believe that being honest without quotation marks is just as, if not more important than being honest with quotation marks, if you know what I mean. Sorry, this isn't your usual satire, in-depth, weird discussion thing that I usually do, but thank you. Thank you so much for helping me hit 200,000 subscribers. Every YouTuber gets like all sad and mopey when they hit milestones, so obviously I'm sure you don't want that to be the entirety of the video, but I figure this is a good way to show my appreciation. Give you 10 pieces of ammo that you could shoot me with at any future point in time. 10 opinions that undoubtedly the majority of people believe to be the wrong opinions, even though, by definition, that should be impossible. And before getting into the meat and potatoes, this 200K special was kindly sponsored by Elsword, an MMORPG, link in the description, and the number one thing I have to say about this game is that it is a play to win, not a pay to win. I can't stress how much I value a game that focuses so much more on the gameplay and community than a game that is obviously just trying to deepen their pockets. Elsword is definitely the former. That being said, it's an anime-esque RPG with great PvP as well as PV environment settings. You could play with your friends, you could play against your friends. And in a game with 12 unique playable characters, each with their own individual backstory, that's never been more fun. Each of these characters has their own unique abilities, as well as strengths and weaknesses, so the strategy element is definitely not something to be overlooked. Speaking of the characters, the developers are working on constantly updating them. As of a bit before this video, there were just updates on the character icons, character intros, and primary skills, as well as finally having an RPG that removed the skill point system, where skills are automatically learned by reaching certain levels. Basically, the developers are a team that are constantly trying to make the game better, and just from this outlook alone, it's definitely a community that I would love to be a part of. There's always an exciting event going on, link in the description to the game, on with the video. Bullet number 1, I love isekai anime. For the layman, isekai anime is where the main character, presumably, gets trapped in another world. Now, this could be trapped in a game, it could be trapped in an alternate dimension, or an alternate universe, or even a different time period. That's what the isekai genre means. Popular isekai anime include No Game No Life, Konosuba, ReZero, and Sword Art Online, which you will be hearing about in the future of these 10 bullets that you will definitely be shooting maybe within the future. Now, I call liking isekai anime in itself a more controversial opinion because of all the bad isekai anime that there are, and how basically everyone else on YouTube seems to think they're utter garbage. I mean, for me, it's the most appealing setup for a story of all time. How better to feel yourself grounded in the universe of the series you're watching than when the main character is transferred to his own new world where he has to learn about it. I think it's the most appealing style story ever, and that's why I'm gonna try every isekai anime that comes out, regardless of its crap reviews on my anime list. And yes, the vast majority of them are terrible. They're just bad, light novel adaptations about kids who wrote a story they don't really know what they're talking about. But there's a harem of boobs surrounding them, so hell, the studio's gonna make money, and that's why we're drowning in isekai harem anime. All that being said though, I cannot find it in myself to hate the genre. I love the genre. It's the most appealing genre in the world, in any world. But despite that, I consider it a controversial opinion because everyone else on YouTube insults it. When anyone says isekai, they think, ugh, garbage. Yeah, there were like 2 good ones. So while I don't want to point out names, pay attention, isekai is never said in good context, ever. Number 9, once we're on isekai anime, my personal favorite isekai anime has to be Digimon. And yes, that counts as a controversial opinion as well, because I believe Digimon is better than most critically acclaimed good anime, even for out of its age demographic. Especially Digimon Adventure 1 and Digimon Tamers. Since I mentioned isekai and I have talked about Tamers in the past, I'm going to be talking briefly about Digimon Adventure. And I say briefly because I could fill up a whole 10-minute video on this, but no one really wants that right now. We want controversial opinions, so here you go. The main cast of Digimon Adventure, and I mean all 8 Digidestined and all 8 of their partner Digimon, each are a more accurately written character than almost any other character in any other show. Tai was selected as the leader because Tai has the charisma as well as the passion and bravery to push forward, while Matt is seen as a second in command because, well, Matt is far more cautious. They get into arguments throughout the series as far as which path they should take, and I find myself leaning towards both of them in different situations, despite the fact that neither of the two break character throughout the series. Yes, Matt has a meltdown in the final arc of Adventure 1, but that meltdown was called good character writing, not character screw-er-uppery. Yes, that's a real word. But I don't have the time to go through all of the characters because, as I've mentioned, there are a lot of good ones, and even the non-main characters are sick characters. Wizardmon is a support character with next to no peers throughout the entirety of anime, and Myotismon is probably in my top 10 villains of all of anime, or maybe 20, but up there. What I'm trying to say is, character-wise, the show is complete brilliance and leagues ahead of almost everything that's considered good. And the plot, well, the plot's incredible too. The kid element put into the plot, fighting for ideals and whatnot, actually becomes relevant as far as the crests that define the different character traits and are used to further power up their Digimon partners. There's an actual philosophy to this damn show. But I think I've already spent a little too much time on Digimon. Moving on to really bad opinion number 8. That's right. Classic anime are not better because they're old. Yes, I know, I realize this is a touchy subject because old anime are like considered better by the anime community at large. But 2 that I would like to talk about in particular are Cowboy Bebop and Evangelion, both being great series, both being series that I vehemently enjoy, but both being series that are not necessarily classics. For me personally, neither of them are even close to my top 20 anime of all time, and there are several reasons why. The overarching plot of Cowboy Bebop was pretty good. It wasn't all that engaging, even though it was kind of exciting, but then again, it only really mattered for 4 episodes out of the 25 episode runtime. Each episode had its own enclosed story, most of which I found to be philosophically dead, just exciting fun stories of our cowboys in space. And while I didn't hate Cowboy Bebop, in fact, I really liked it. I loved the music, I loved the art, I loved the characters, and I liked the stories, even those individual stories I just made fun of. But at the same time, it doesn't hold up to the masterpiece narratives of some other shows that I think are just way better. There are many connections that I would like to draw from it to Psycho Pass, but I don't have the time. But Psycho Pass destroys Cowboy Bebop in my personal opinion, across the board, wipe the floor with it. And Evangelion? Well, that and Cowboy Bebop are considered the 2 10 out of 10s of anime, even though Evangelion is the same plot, regurgitated every second episode. A new angel comes. He doesn't want to get in the robot. He'll get in the robot, he'll blow up the angel. Father's kind of happy-ish, but he's still a passive-aggressive asshole. Doesn't want to get in the robot in the next episode for the next even bigger alien. I mean, this goes on for several episodes in a row. And when I say several, I mean more than half the show. The depression oozing out of it is not something I personally derive much pleasure from. I can see why you like Evangelion, especially the end of Evangelion. The end of Evangelion's actually pretty good, even though a lot of people didn't like that one. God knows what's going on here. But I don't think it holds up to more modern, personally better anime. It's hard to compare Evangelion to anything of recent years, except for like Darling in the Franxx, and I did prefer Evangelion to Darling in the Franxx, so I will not be doing that. But similar in philosophical tone to Evangelion was Shin Sekai Yori from the New World, which I personally thought Evangelion didn't even deserve to be in the same context as Shin Sekai Yori. That's how much better From the New World is. If you've seen it, you may know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I highly suggest it. Bit of a sleeper due to rather crappy animation. But philosophy-wise, I see no competition between the two of these. But hey, that's my opinion. My honest opinion. Good. We're moving a bit slower than I expected, but I'm already sweating, getting ready for the backlash that this is bound to cause. Oh boy, I hope you appreciate this. I'm kind of regretting it right now. But number 7. Yes, the manga or interviews to a series do not matter as far as if the anime is good or not. If I'm talking about if an anime is a good anime, I'm not talking about if the story is good. I'm not talking about if the source material is good. I'm not talking about if there's a deep philosophical message that personally I don't give a crap about because the characters and story are boring as heck. And I have 2 examples to this that I would like to bring forward. Well, 2 examples and one obvious one. The obvious one is when you have a great manga and a terrible anime adaptation. If I say that anime is bad, obviously that's fair, and I believe everyone agrees. Right, Tokyo Ghoul fanboys? But the 2 examples I would like to bring forth are first, Recreators from last last year. Yes, this was an anime where beings from fictional worlds were brought to life in the real world. Basically a reverse isekai anime, so I did not get my isekai rush that I mentioned in number 10, but at the same time, it's a good enough theme to make good on. Philosophically, they did a great job. The conversations between the creators and the creations were incredible as far as which side to take in this ideological argument. At the same time, I found the series to be one of the most boring anime I've ever sat through. At least sat through till episode 17. I didn't actually finish it because, yeah, once I fell one episode behind, I had no interest in catching up whatsoever. The fights were decently animated, but I ain't watching this just for fights. All the characters are boring, very two-dimensional, and the narrative itself was so painstakingly drawn, I could not actually finish the damn show. You probably know why I'm mentioning this, as far as how a certain other YouTuber praises the series a lot, and therefore we don't need to go into this any further. The other thing I wanted to talk about was interviews, and that's because Pedantic Romantic made a video on Violet Evergarden because a lot of people were expecting to like it and didn't, and I was one of those. I did not love Violet Evergarden at all, and Pedantic Romantic says there's no reason why you shouldn't. You should just watch the interviews because the interviews explain something in the story that you would have missed without the interviews, and once you know that part of the story, all of a sudden the anime becomes amazing. So I don't believe in this philosophy whatsoever. It's not a good anime if I don't enjoy it, but I would enjoy it if I actually would have watched the interviews. The interviews and the source material do not matter if the anime does a crap job as far as explaining its narrative, but hey, that's just me. Moving on. Number 6, we're going to be talking about how I believe Avatar is not an anime and how that absolutely makes no difference. It makes no difference because the whole classification idea of what is and isn't an anime is so stupid. If you enjoy it, watch it. If you don't, don't. I think that's pretty straightforward thinking, don't you? People getting worked up in these arguments saying, well, I like Avatar. It's an anime now because I like it. Well, you're allowed to like it if it's not an anime also. Newsflash, if there's something you like more than anime, well then you should be watching that, not anime. This is all a matter of enjoyment once it comes down to the thick of things. So now that that's out of the way, if you were to ask me, I would not classify it as an anime, even though the classification itself doesn't matter in the slightest, and that's because if you ask a Japanese person, what is an anime? They understand it as anything animated. According to them, Shrek is an anime, Teen Titans is an anime, Winnie the Pooh is an anime, and Family Guy is an anime. What I just said is not the controversial part of the opinion. What I said just now is fact. That's how it's perceived in Japan. Now, outside of Japan, we're using the word anime as a Japanese word. We're not saying I'm watching a cartoon or an animation, so therefore if I'm saying anime as far as the Japanese word, I'm including the Japanese culture and I'm talking about a Japanese show. If you want to use their terminology, then everything animated is an anime. If you don't, well then there's no way to draw lines as far as, oh, this should be an anime because characters get development done like Winnie the Pooh. I've heard arguments like that and they just don't make sense. Honestly, I think it's pretty straightforward stuff, but this is a very controversial opinion because apparently everyone seems to disagree with me. Great! Aren't you happy I'm doing this video? Moving on. Yeah, the following 3 opinions are all going to be an anime that the world thinks is bad that I personally derived much enjoyment from. Which I guess is good, because deriving enjoyment is great, but at the same time, somehow the world doesn't agree. Let's do it. Number 5, I love Fairy Tail. I love it, guys. What can I tell you? I get much enjoyment from watching Fairy Tail. Yes, if you've watched my Honest Description series, you know I'm extremely talented in the art of nitpicking, or as I like to call it, shit picking. That was the worst joke of the entire video. But I'm great at that stuff. I love doing it. It's fun, but I also have the right to like the anime, even though I know there's flaws. There are flaws in Fairy Tail. There are lots of flaws in Fairy Tail. In fact, most of the characters are flaws in Fairy Tail. The fact that every villain becomes a good guy is a flaw in Fairy Tail. No one ever dies. There's no blood. Even after getting slashed with a sword, power of friendship wins every fight. Natsu manages to take down an enemy that just 2 minutes before beat him, as well as 4 other guys. Yes, I understand how Natsu gets a plot armor power boost at the end of every arc by eating ether nana bull schnizzle. Just powerful enough to beat the bad guy and then he loses it for the next arc. I know how this works, but at the same time, the Fairy Tail Guild is an extremely welcoming place to me. It's open to anyone. A lot of people call it the poor man's One Piece, and I don't completely disagree. There are a lot of themes that are very recycled from One Piece, but one thing about Fairy Tail that I like over One Piece is how I personally would never get onto the Straw Hats crew. No matter how nice of a dude I was, I would never do it. I'm not the strongest swordman in the world. I'm not gonna be the pirate king. I'm not a master chef, and they don't have Brooke's hilarious sense of humor. But in Fairy Tail, I would be welcome because Fairy Tail welcomes everybody. There is so much heart in the Fairy Tail show, it just talks to me. I love so many things about it that everyone just craps on constantly. The Grand Magic Games arc is one of my favorite shonen arcs of all time, and that's because it's coming right after a 7-year time skip. the Fairy Tail Guild is in the rut. They just lost all of their strongest members to a tragic accident that's kind of spoilery, so we won't get into it. But after 7 years, the main cast returns, skipped into the future. So they didn't experience this time skip, but at this point, Fairy Tail Guild is at its ultimate low, forced to pay other guilds to just not destroy them entirely. And then our main cast comes back. The characters that we grew up with and that were the soul of the Fairy Tail Guild, and they give Fairy Tail back its name. Just saying, this is almost bringing me to tears, and it's kind of sad. But my number 5 controversial opinion is I love Fairy Tail. And to add fuel to the fire, number 4 is I like SAO. As I mentioned before, I am a bit of an isekai junkie, and therefore, I automatically like it just by the premise of being trapped in a virtual world that, well, quite frankly, has a lot more philosophy than Recreators. And no, I did not pick Recreators just to be a little antagonistic to poor Mr. Thu. I apologize, Mr. Thu. Definitely be saving that for a future video, especially because everyone hates Sword Art Online so much. I don't feel like the little 1.5 minute segment I'm gonna give it in this video will do justice to my complete feelings about it, as far as why I think it's objectively not so bad, despite my personal opinion being that I enjoyed it. So for the full analysis, you're gonna have to wait, fam. I apologize. But as far as controversial opinions, this is a hell of a controversial opinion. In fact, I can't think of a more controversial opinion one can have this day and age in the community. Yes, I enjoyed Sword Art Online, and it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And the next anime that I enjoyed that I wasn't supposed to be enjoying was Oreimo. Yes, your little sister can't be this cute. I really liked it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a great comedy, and I thought it was a great romance between the main character and a support character. Not the sister, obviously, because I am not that weird. Kuroneko is a best girl character in my books, but people avoid this anime because of its incestuous title and its slightly incestuous content. Not that incestuous, mind you, but slightly incestuous. I understand people avoiding it. Heck, I avoided it for a while. I don't even remember what actually made me decide to sit down and watch it, but when I did, I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it a lot. Don't hate if you haven't seen it yourself, and even if you've seen it yourself, please don't hate, because it's like an opinion and whatever. Also, important note, I do not have any sisters, so at least there's that. But moving on to number 2. Serial Experiments Lane is more like Serial Experiments Lame. Yeah, so I'm not including this in the classic categories that I don't think should be categorized as classics, because while I still really like Cowboy, Bebop, and Evangelion, I hate Serial Experiments Lane. I think it's a terrible show. It's boring AF. The characters are disasters, and the plot ain't all that great either. The reason why so many people adore this series is because of how ahead of its time it is, that everyone will be so hooked up to the world of the internet. And whoa, that actually happened. Well, now that I told you that, there's absolutely no need to watch the show. And one of the things that honestly bothers me most about Serial Experiments Lane is the people that say that it's, oh, so amazing and wow, so inspirational. Not trying to say it's elitism at its finest, but it's kind of getting there. I mean, obviously everyone has the right to an opinion, so I don't dislike people because they like Serial Experiments Lane, and I don't disrespect them because of their taste, because that's just stupid on my end. But it does kind of get under my skin when people say, oh, you don't like Serial Experiments Lane? It's because you don't understand Serial Experiments Lane. Yeah, I understand it. I'm just not all that inspired by it. Whatever, everyone has the right to opinion. I hate Lane. What can you do? Moving on. So before I say number 1, I would like to say 2 honorable mentions because they're both not anime. The first one is, I believe Undertale is the greatest form of media of all time, even though the fan base is terrible, and no one's allowed to say they like Undertale anymore because of the said fan base. Too bad! It's my favorite thing ever. And the second slightly controversial, not exactly anime opinion that I would like to mention is the fan base is probably the best fan base on AniTube right now. I mean, obviously it's pretentious and obviously this opinion's biased, but looking around at other communities surrounding other YouTubers, I don't see any that really compete. You guys got the memes, you guys got the sarcasm, you guys don't get insulted by stuff that insults most people. You get triggered in the good way, not in the bad way. I love looking through my comments and seeing what you have to say. I like the constructive criticism, to be honest. I love the praise, which is understandable, I guess. And I love the memes. The memes that spew from this channel, honestly, are thanks to you guys, really not thanks to me. I've done this to test it out, but I haven't mentioned Lord Twigo, our Lord and Savior, for many videos now, just to see if the meme would subside or if I'm just fueling a stupid fire. And, well, every video has tons of those Lord Twigo comments. It's even scarier when I go to a random other guy's video and I see Lord Twigo comments. God, that's freaky. How is it not a dead meme? The greatest of memes die immediately when this meme was going on for like 8 months now, and it's going strong stronger than ever. So I'm really happy to take this time and really dedicate it to you guys for giving me the inspiration to keep going. And of course, no disrespect to Lord Twigo, obviously, something as majestic as you cannot be snuffed out by mere time. But as far as the fan base thing goes, and as far as our community goes, I genuinely love and appreciate you guys. You make it worthwhile. And as far as deciding that you're the greatest community on AniTube and one of the greatest on all of YouTube as far as I know, the only one who gets to decide such things is me, Lord Noxanor himself. I mean, I wasn't exactly sure what the focus of this top 10 would be, so I asked you guys on Twitter. I figured, hey, it's for you. I might as well take one of your opinions. And yes, a bunch of you suggested my top 10 controversial or unpopular anime opinions, and I went for that. It seemed like a pretty personal idea, and I like communicating to you guys through Twitter. It's great. Link to my Twitter is in the description. Please click it to have more weird Nux memeage in your life. That's always great. But as far as how awesome this community is, let me read to you a bunch of the replies to the tweets. I'm eagerly awaiting the top 10 Nux moments, the top 10 reasons why Donald Trump is actually Donzo, top 10 moments orchestrated by Lord Twigo, top 10 reasons why Minato will become the #1 hero, top 10 sarcastic, I mean honest facts about Nux Taku, top 10 suggestions for the 200k special, top 10 super ultra mega omnipotent god above us all rejoice for he is King Lord Twigo moments. Of course he spelled Twigo wrong, but you know. Top 10 anime characters like Lord Twigo, and the reply to that is, oh, there is nobody like our Lord and Savior Sensei Twigo-sama-kun. He meant Lord Twigo-sama-kun, just whatever. Anime to not watch from bad to worse. 10 Fortnite YouTubers who have sworn. Edward Elwick on his description, or maybe, this is not for the faint of heart, but Lord Twigo OP analysis. Top 10 times when Nux set the world on fire. Top 10 OP, in quotation marks, female shonen characters, because as we know, the meme is that they're all useless. Top 10 best YouTube channels. Well, you see, that is a very normal request. A lot of people ask me that type of thing, and then in brackets, sarcastically, because he knows what I would do. I mean, and this could go on. The majority of the answers to this tweet are sarcastic memes. I legitimately love you guys, and I'm not sugarcoating it at all. And well, I believe it's time for #1 as far as controversial anime opinions, and that is, I way prefer early Naruto to My Hero Academia. Nostalgia may play a part of it. I'm not going to deny that, and I do love Hero Academia immensely. But I believe to a large extent, people just seem to forget how really, truly incredible pre-Shippuden non-filler Naruto really is. Now, the reason I say Naruto is because I know a lot of people compare the two and say that Hero Academia is like the new better Naruto. While One Piece, well, I prefer One Piece to Hero Academia as well. But to be a bit more controversial about it, I'm going to be comparing Hero Academia to early Naruto. Not immensely, because, well, other people have covered it, and there are aspects that I like in Hero Academia better. For example, the 3-episode Stain arc in Hero Academia doesn't have a counterpart in early Naruto, except for possibly the introduction of the Akatsuki, which was completely genius, but also completely different. Also, All for One versus All Might held a greater emotional value than the third Hokage versus Orochimaru, and also no character in Naruto at this point had character development like Todoroki. Well, that is, except for Gaara. I personally prefer Gaara to Todoroki, and I believe them to have very similar tropes that they're covering. All that being said, there is no counterpart to Gaara versus Lee, which is better than anything we've seen in Hero Academia so far, in my personal opinion. And the final nail in the coffin for me as to why I prefer early Naruto is the vibe of the universe and the unknown extents of it. In the Chunin exams, we see how truly incredible a Jonin ninja is. Gaara's ultimate attack against Lee gets stopped by Guy from the stands in a second, as well as Neji possibly going a little too far against Hinata, and he gets subdued by several of the Jonin on standby. The way an elite ninja is revered in Naruto, not necessarily by the characters, but by the world itself, has no counterpart to how the heroes are looked up to in Hero Academia. That's one, and as far as the universe goes, Hero Academia's universe is fairly understood and fairly simplistic, whereas Naruto has a world of unknown ahead of it. That being said, I prefer early Naruto to Hero Academia, and that's just my personal opinion. And you have the right to disagree, because that's the beauty of opinions. As I mentioned, I love the fan base, and I love the community that we've built, and I'm sure you guys don't mind. In fact, I'm sure you prefer me being honest. I mean, I know that's what I like in other YouTubers. I prefer to hear their legitimate opinion than hear what they're training themselves to say to not be looked bad at. When I hear a controversial opinion I disagree with, I respect that person more. That is, except for politics. I think politics should be kept away a little bit from entertainment YouTubers. The two should not necessarily mix. Politics has managed to develop itself a toxic fan base as of late, which is kind of a scary thought. But hey, that's just my opinion on opinions, and I'd love to hear your opinions and your opinions on opinions in the comments. I really appreciate the help in hitting 200,000 subscribers. It's a little scary to think about, but it's really super appreciated. Again, link in the description to my Twitter. Feel free to follow me there, as well as the link to my merch and the link to my Patreon. Any support through any of those three is greatly appreciated. Anyone who donates via merch gets the merch, and anyone who donates via Patreon is welcome to the Discord server, which, believe it or not, has never had any issues so far, because the community is awesome. So thanks to the Swagcoggers, TM Philly, Rari, Sasha, MD, JD Fincher, Q's Kindergarten, Axel and an anonymous member, the Lord Tweegers, Fabian Brandy, Tyler Schumacher, Gavin Anderson, Large Blob, and a Japanese person that I can't read kanji, and the three Gadu Saprank, Zachary Wheatley, Dark Element, and Ezedric. It's thanks to you guys that I made it to 200,000 subscribers, and it's not like I don't know that. I do, I appreciate it, and it's internalized, and thank you so much. I'm sure I don't need to point out that I reply in heart to comments all over the place, and that don't be hesitant to let me know what you think about anything, because honestly, I'd really love to hear what you have to say. So yeah, that's my opinion on opinions. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks Elsword for sponsoring this video, link in the description. Have yourself a most wonderful evening, and remember, stay weird, fam, and being weird is good. Don't be too weird though, because too weird though is not so good. But a bit weird is great.